Hello, fellow poor people of the multiverse. Danny O here. Since this is my first video for this channel, I wanted to start off by introducing myself a little. I've been playing Magic the Gathering since 1999, jumping into probably one of the most insane standard or type 2, as it was called back then, formats in history, with Tempest, Urza's Block constructed, and just before the release of Mercadian Masks, which would become my most nostalgic set of cards to this day. Like most Magic players, I was off and on throughout the years, selling off my collection to friends and inevitably getting back into it a year or two later, as one does. My last iteration of Magic was a 5-year stint throughout Zendikar, Mirrodin, Innistrad, Ravnica, Theros, and then Tarkir, when I ultimately quit once again before the release of Battle for Zendikar. And regrettably selling off one of my biggest accomplishments, that was Modern Rock, complete with Tarmogoyfs, Bobs, Lilies, etc. Thankfully, it is nice to see that those cards drastically are cheaper today than when I sold them. Most notably, I ended up selling my Goyfs for about $160 a piece, and they're literally a fourth of that. However, one thing I never got rid of, and probably never will, is my playset of Liliana of the Veil. I had these 4 lilies signed by Steve Argyle, the artist of the card, at my very first Grand Prix in Salt Lake City. A year or so later, I was at another Grand Prix in Portland, in which he was also in attendance. With a little more cash in hand this time around, I had him do altered art on all of them as well. So they remain as a memoir of my favorite times traveling the country with my friends every year for major Magic tournaments. As my Planeswalker spark reignites once again for Magic, albeit during a pandemic, I've resorted to a much beloved format known as Pauper. If you're watching this video, you probably already know what that is, but in case you don't, it is a constructed format in which you may only use cards that were printed at common rarity, even if it was printed at a higher rarity in other sets. This obviously means it's very cheap to get into, and because of the pandemic, I was out of work for about 5 to 6 months this year, living off of family and eventually unemployment when it finally got approved and paid out. So it was nice to be able to build decks for me and some friends to play around with while not breaking the bank every paycheck. Plus, I get to play with a lot of really powerful cards that were around when I first started playing, like Counterspell, Lightning Bolt, Rancor, and more. I will also state, however, that I am not playing on MTGO, which is Wizards' official digital platform for competitive Magic play and I guess casual play as well. 2 reasons for that. One, I hate playing card games online when I can't communicate with my opponent directly with my voice. And the platform makes games go way too long because of forcing you through steps, phases. Every single trigger has to pop up and wait for priority passing. Misclicks are a nightmare. So yeah, I hate it. Secondly, my internet sucks in my current living situation, so I'm not about to mess with disconnects on top of all of that. This is just a premise to my personal and subjective opinion of my thoughts here in this video and any others that follow. I was a very competitive player traveling all over the country to major events multiple times a year with a team that played together every week, teched, tested, and grinded events for winnings to maintain our collection and make sure all of us on the team had competitive decks to pilot at all times. So even though I'm not doing that anymore, I am a very competitive player at heart and have that mindset at all times when building lists and analyzing new decks that pop up in events. But also still love to see super fun off the wall ideas that spark my dream of finding that rogue list that just crushes everything out of nowhere and everyone is left awestruck at how smart I am. All right, all that crap out of the way. We're talking Pauper meta. I've been keeping a close eye on events and new decks that pop up every week since I started building decks again, and since the release of Commander Legends, it's been really exciting to say the least. So I want to go over what's been happening since then, check out how the meta has been affected, what's doing well, what's not, and recommend to some newer players getting into the format on some decks that would hold up well against what we're seeing. All right, so let's answer a couple questions here. What are the decks to beat right now? Since the release of Commander Legends, is Tron still the boogeyman? I don't know. What should I play if I want to play competitively in the field right now? So let's take a look. In the last couple weeks, we see a very glaring realization here as green-white auras, or as we know it as Bogles or hexproof. And it makes sense. Fiery Cannonade came out, pushed out a lot of aggro decks from the format, or decks that can't really answer that. Aggro decks still exist, the ones that can kind of live through Cannonade, like Affinity or Boros Flashback with Prismatic Strands, but Bogles just makes sense. It's resistant to the Cannonade because it has big creatures that could live through it with their enchantments, and it's also resistant to everybody's favorite card right now, Fall from Favor. Your creature's hexproof. So it makes sense that Bogles is crushing. It didn't need to do anything to its deck. It didn't need to add or remove or switch anything up to be relevant in the meta. It just is what it is, and it's just competing fine naturally for obvious reasons. So I think Bogles is the boogeyman right now. Not so much Tron. Yes, Tron still sucks, and it's still out there, and you will play against it, but I think if the meta keeps going the way it is, Bogles is going to be a bigger problem. I'm also seeing a lot of this Cascade green-red Ponza here, which is mana acceleration, land destruction, Cascade big dudes, right? If you haven't seen that lately, highly recommend check out the list. It's pretty cool. I think it's exciting to see a new archetype come out that has been doing really well, and a lot of people are picking up on it and trying it out. So I think this might be a troublesome deck because, you know, everybody needs lands to play the game. So, yeah. Anyway, so those are my 3 decks to beat this week, and probably for the next week or so. Ponza, Tron, Bogles. So what do we do to beat him? Well, if I were to recommend you, a new player to the Pauper format, or someone who just wants to play competitively in the Pauper format right now, I would say play Bogles, because Tron does not kill your stuff. Ponza only kills your lands. They don't really interact with your board other than that. So you don't have edicts coming at you. You don't have wraths coming at you, pestilence, nausea, things like that. I think Bogles is positioned well against the other bigger decks that are kind of running around. So I would definitely recommend playing that. If you want to beat Bogles, I got a couple spicy cards for you. Check this out. I'm gonna pull these up because they're super hilarious. Okay, so you probably saw the first one. I'm going to start talking with this one first. So enchantment alteration. If you are in blue and you want some answer to Bogles, 1 blue, instant, move target enchantment from one creature to another or from one land to another. So what that means is you can take their Wild Growth and put it on your land. You can't take their Utopia Sprawl unless you have a forest. It has to be a legal target. But it also, and hilariously, means you can take their Ancestral Mask and put it on your Fairy Seer, and now you have a 9/9 fairy. That flies. Why not? I would play this card in Sideboard if you're in blue and want some answers to Bogles. If you are in white and want some answers to Bogles, I keep saying Bogles. It's Bogles. I've been saying Bogles since it came out. Like, it's just everybody always says Bogles. It's hard. I'm trying. I promise you, I'm trying. Bogles. If you were in white and would like to have some sideboard tech against Bogles, there's a card called Remove Enchantments. And like the name, it removes enchantments. Now, what it does is all enchantments, that's very wordy here on the original, and even on the Oracle text is super wordy. Basically what it does, for 1 white mana at instant speed, you return all enchantments or auras that you control to your hand. No matter where they are, they go back to your hand, except for your graveyard. In play, they come back to your hand. But if you played it on your opponent's attack step, in their combat step, you destroy all enchantments on attacking creatures. I'll give you a second on that one. For 1 white mana at instant speed. Chef's kiss. Okay. Chef's. Delicious. Delicious. If you hate Bogles and you're in white and want to kick some teeth in, try this card out. I don't know. Maybe you've already heard of this card and this already exists. I haven't seen it in any lists that I've been looking at for the last few months. I've never seen anybody play this card. I didn't even know this card existed until like a few weeks ago. But I read this and it's insane. It's insane to me. Is this not insane to you? This is crazy. I love this card so much. I like to play Bogles. I enjoy playing that deck. Not a lot. I like to pick it up occasionally, and it's a lot of fun. But if you despise Bogles and you're in white, bro, okay, so they get their Rancor back. That don't impress. Okay, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm gonna get arrested and go to jail. They get their Rancor back. Everything else just falls off. Now they have a 1/1 hexproof creature. Now you could just block it. You just block it. It has, it's an 11/9 trample, first strike, hexproof, deals damage, gain that much life, whatever. Instant speed. They attack with it. Oops. It's a 1/1. I'll block it with my 2/2. Or I'll block it with my 1/1 fairy and trade. That's insane to me. Maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know. That's insane. Try it out if you hate Bogles. I hope you learned something new today with this card. And as you can see, it is Pauper legal. So you know what to do. Go destroy those Bogles. Those silly... Are they oofs or homunculi? Oof. That's what they're going to be saying when you cast Remove Enchantments. Oof. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I'm a mono black player, and I love my mono black, and I will play it to the ends of the earth. And I have edicts, and I have ways to deal with so many things, and I love it. But obviously, it's not really on the radar, so I won't really mention that. But yeah, if you are looking to get into the format, or just kind of wanted some discussion or something to check out, see some random dude's thoughts on a card game, I hope you learned something new, found out some new cards, got some new ideas, had fun, and let me know what you think in the comments. Let's have a discussion, and I'll try to make some more videos and discuss what's going on with the meta as I see it and what we can do to beat it or join it, whatever floats your boat. So thanks for watching. I've been Danny O. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time.